All right. Another episode of Best Available Podcast. Middle of May. It's May 18th, 2021, special Tuesday edition. We did not record an episode yesterday, but we're going to come out today with another one. Matt, the weather is beautiful. We're going to get some early summer weather later this week. I saw some temperatures in the 90s. We have a lot of stuff to talk about. We kind of talked about how we reached a lull. Not many sports topics to talk about, but now we're like in full force. This is one of the best times of the year for sports. We got multiple playoffs going on. Baseball's still, they're in full swing. They're a month into the season. A lot of fun stuff to talk about. But how are you feeling here before we get into all we have to talk about?
Well, summer weather is in full force. This is like the preseason, right? This is spring training for anyone who needs to get out there and adjust to the temperatures like me yesterday when I took out the dog only to come in sweating, which I felt really soft as I used to work at a summer camp and I used to be able to be like, oh, I could handle the heat. Now I sit on my computer for 8 hours a day, so I'm soft. That's what I learned yesterday, but that's okay. Summer weather's back. I am responsible for why we did not record yesterday, so send any hate mail my way. I'm sorry to disrupt your Monday plans if that's a part of it. But yeah, sports are back, Ryan. We're in full swing. Pun intended, Ryan, because I just mentioned the PGA Championship off the air. We're in full swing, right up to par. All the golf puns that I put in the group chat. So it's going to be a fun show.
Before we get into all the sports we have to talk about, something that we have to talk about is Lego. So I've started, I'm on my 2-week sabbatical from my job at a minor league baseball team. So I decided to wait to build the Legos. And so I started with the White House. I have the town center and the White House. The White House, this is a 249-step project. I have done 88 of the steps. So this is where we're at so far. The bags, of course, if you've never built Legos before, they have numbers on them. I did everything from bag set 1 and bag set 2. And so this is where we're at. And it looks a lot better than it did yesterday. You can kind of see what it's supposed to look like now. You couldn't really see it after only the first 40 steps. But it's starting to come together. I think it looks kind of cool. I made a wonderful rookie mistake. I used the wrong piece. Luckily, I noticed it in time, but then I had to take the piece off, put the other piece where it's supposed to go, and then it was a whole process. So that was fun, getting back into that. But yeah, this is coming along nicely. It's got a little girth to it, which is nice. It's a solid unit. I think when it's done, it's supposed to be like 18 inches wide, I think. So this is only like a small part of it, but yeah, I'm excited to continue building it. Hopefully by next week, I'll have the entire thing done so we can talk about that. But yeah, so the building Legos is back.
Yeah, so those who don't know, I am a Lego fanatic. I was when I was a kid, took a little break during college to run around with, Coach Rice and the Monmouth basketball team covering them, so that took up most of my time. But now we're back to Legos, right? Ryan used to see me build little ones in my room senior year. Then I got back into the full sets, and then Ryan, I'm really happy to see you getting back into them too. How relaxing is it? It's pretty nice. It's a non-screen activity, Ryan, which is what I think everyone our age and really anyone in general needs one of these things.
I'll tell you, it's relaxing. It's also a great way to make sure you still have your eyesight because you have to find these really small pieces. There's like 4 different bags you're trying to look through. You got to flip it over, and then it is a relaxing activity though, especially like you just open a window. You got the fan going. You hear the birds outside. It's nice and sunny. You're just doing something productive by building something. So it's nice. It's a nice way to spend some time. I think it's nice to kind of prolong it a little bit, at least
That's
in
what
my
I
opinion.
do as well. Yeah,
Like,
that's a
you
good
don't want to do the
strategy.
entire thing at once. You kind of like to enjoy the experience a little bit.
Well, especially with the bigger sets too, unless you're like a YouTuber and like you do like a live stream and stuff, like I understand that aspect. But if like you're sitting at home and you have the space, like a little workspace to keep building it on, it's nice to see it come together, as you said. You mentioned putting the piece in the wrong place, Ryan. Back when we were growing up, I'm assuming your set came with the brick separator, that like orange or blue plastic piece.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That wasn't really as big of a thing back in the day, if my memory is correct. So that makes it a lot easier. I do the same thing sometimes, especially with the White House set you have. Probably has a lot of similar pieces being used compared to a lot of other sets that have more unique pieces, easier to tell them apart. So that's understandable. I did that with my set. If you remember actually you haven't seen the Star Wars movie yet, but the Mos Eisley Cantina, a lot of similar pieces. I've done that a few times. So Ryan's smiling because he's really slacking right now on the Star Wars train.
Listen, the way things work for me, I'll get really into it, and then I need to take a break. So I got really into the first three, the prequels. I watched 1, 2, 3, like back to back to back days. Now I need to take a break. I need to digest what I had seen in the movies. So it's
yeah, but
postponed.
Ryan, we need a big Glen DeNigris episode of Playoff Glen plus Star Wars Glen. This is like prime content that we're sitting on because you got to speed up the movie process here. You said you're on a sabbatical for 2 weeks. Knock them out.
The Islanders and the Knicks are in the playoffs. Let's get that out of the way. Okay, there we go. All right, so now we can move on with my rival, my mini golf rival, Glen DeNigris. I don't want to say his name a lot because I don't want to give him free airtime. We're rivals right now. I can't talk about him. We got the mini golf thing. We're going to schedule that soon. That'll be fun. We have some trash talk going on in our group chat, which I think is just a little too much. I really haven't partaken in a lot of it. I'm taking kind of the high road. You know, I'm just confident in my abilities. I'm going to go to the mini golf course. I'm just going to let my talent do the talking whenever this happens. So I'm not scared. Glenn he set the line at minus 3.5. I think that's a little, that was kind of funny the first time I saw it. I think he's really underestimating me. I'm not scared of him. There's no reason to be. It's really not going to be close, I don't think.
Yeah, see, I like the strategy Glenn's taking of putting the trash talk out there because I think he could back up his game no matter what. And if he goes out there, Ryan, and he wipes the floor with you and he talks all that trash, it's going to look even worse for a PR perspective for you, Ryan, because you just kind of like, I don't know, man. I appreciate the high road. I do, but he's trying to get you. He's trying to get under your skin. He did last year when the Flyers and Islanders played.
That was different because he didn't care about hockey at all. He only cared about it because they were playing the Flyers. This time though, like he can talk as much trash as he wants. At the end of the day, you have to be able to do it on the course. You have to be able to do it consistently.
He can.
Ryan, you saw him do it a small amount of time, small sample size. You talk about sample size. This was a small sample size. You don't know what he's like outside of this. He could be really bad.
No, see, I'm Team Glenn on this one. You don't know the storm that's coming your way, Ryan. I gave him a little scare. I gave him one scare.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about, though. You have said on the record, if you didn't have that one bad hole, you could have beaten him. So clearly, he's not that good.
No, but that shows if you're going to spin zone this back, is that you have to be on your game for the full 18. You can't take one hole off because that's how he's going to beat you. Because that's how it was. We were on hole 13 in Myrtle Beach. Nice sunny day. Zach was there too. Zach didn't have a great day on the course in Myrtle Beach, but he was there. He was there cheering me on, trying to make a late push. I shot like a 6 or a 7 on a hole, Ryan. And after like the third or fourth stroke, I just feel the pressure from Glenn because I knew that this was going to come back to bite me down the stretch. And sure enough, it did. My valiant comeback fell short. So what this shows, Ryan, is not that I gave him a scare and that means that he needs to be on lookout from you. It's that you can't miss a hole like I did. You got to be perfect.
I'm not scared at all. I think you guys are talking, he's talking up a big game. You're talking him up. You're hyping him up. I respect it. You've seen it happen in person. I haven't. Admittedly, I'll put that one out there. I just don't think this is going to be very close. I think it's going to be one of those things where one of the guys talks a lot of trash, he shows up, and then he gets his ass kicked. So listen, we'll see if that's what actually happens. I think that's what's going to happen, but it'll be fun regardless. It's always fun to spend a day with the boys. At the end of the day, that's the big thing. Just spend a day with all the guys, get some food afterwards. We're all fully vaccinated. Yeah. Weather, of course, is going to be nice. We're not going to do it on a bad weather day. So that's ultimately what's important. It doesn't matter who wins, doesn't matter who loses. It just matters that we all have a good time. So let's just keep that in mind for the future.
First day with the boys, Ryan, since Wild Card Sunday of 2020.
I don't even want to relive that. That's a game that I don't want to remember.
That was when we were all Eagles fans that day, Ryan.
No.
We all started out as Seahawks fans, but then we were pulling for your birds. And then when Carson got hurt, we went back to be day one Seahawks fans.
So, before we go any further, by the way, hold on, I need to represent my Android gang here with my Samsung Galaxy S25 GT shirt that I got when I got my Samsung Galaxy back in August. There was a Samsung representative in the store. He heard that I was getting a Galaxy. He's like, "Hey, man, I got a shirt in my car. Do you want it?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" And so he gave me a shirt. Never heard of Apple doing something like that. Just want to put that one out there. He gave my mom a pair of socks, too, some Samsung socks. Never heard Apple doing that. But before we go any further, would you like to defend Apple before we get into sports? I've never heard of Apple giving somebody a T-shirt for buying a phone.
No. My phone has blue messages, though, blue bubbles. So
hold on. If you follow us on Instagram, you would have seen this before. So mine, you could see right there, it has blue messages too, right? It's not the same thing.
It's not iMessages though. It's not iMessages, Ryan.
But it's good. It does the job. All right, it does the job. We're not going to get into this again, but just wanted to show some brand loyalty with my nice Samsung Galaxy T-shirt. I need to clarify my comments from a week ago. If you missed the podcast, some might say I spoke down on the sport of baseball. Some might say I went on an ill-informed rant. Some might say they disagree with a lot of what I said. That's not me saying it. That's just what some people might say. So I need to clarify a couple things. I like the sport of baseball. I really, really enjoy it. But I also have some issues with it. Just like I'm a big Philadelphia Eagles fan. I love the Philadelphia Eagles. But I also hate the Philadelphia Eagles. It's kind of like that kind of relationship. I think we're really lucky to be able to watch people like Jacob deGrom and Shohei Ohtani, Mike Trout, some of the best players in the history of the sport, some of the best players we're ever going to see. The highlights, of course, are really neat to see. Just all this stuff that we're seeing is great. Having said that, I really do think there are some things in the sport that need to be fixed. I don't know what they are. I don't know how you accomplish it. I think there are a couple things, a couple tweaks that need to be made to make the sport the best that it can be. I think that is ultimately the point I was trying to make. So I'm going to walk back some of my comments from last week. I'm going to present a new narrative, which is what I just said. So I needed to make that perfectly clear. Baseball as a sport, I like it. I'm always going to like it. I always like putting it on the television at any time of day. I just think a couple tweaks need to be made to make it the best that it can be.
Well, listen, we've had our baseball talks before, and you could have this with any sport too, right? Of how to improve the game, and I think conversations like that are much more welcome than people just throwing out hot takes, Ryan, just about like players or teams. So, always good to have a baseball talk with you like that. And honestly, too, when you compare it to other sports, the rules and making adjustments are much more talked about in baseball than other sports. And it's going to be a nice discussion to have. And I think, Manfred's going to have a lot of different avenues he could take the sport. So we'll see. But baseball, I would say in terms of, if you just look at the ratings, as we talked about last week, it's thriving more than it has in past years. And I like I said last week, I want to see how it does now that we have, as we mentioned, so many things going on right now. So I want to see how that holds up.
I thought this would be kind of fun. You talk about, baseball rules, stuff like that. I saw a tweet come up It might have been I forget if it was a tweet. I don't know. Something happened. I saw this. So there are questions about baseball, and it was pro or con. So I thought this might be kind of fun to do on the podcast. So the 5 things, pro or con, were bat flips, robot umps, banning the shift, bunting, and pitchers batting. So let's bat flips. Are you pro bat flip or are you con with the bat flips?
I think we need more of it. More excitement. It gets. I mentioned this, buzzword, social media interaction. It gets so many interactions every time there's a big bat flip, right? And that's the big buzzword now for sports is how many interactions can you get from a highlight. So I think it's a really good thing for the sport.
So I agree. I think that it's really weird that people are against it. I forget who made the argument. It might have been Trevor Bauer. It might have been somebody else. I don't know. But if you don't want to see a bat flip, make a better pitch, and then you won't have to see the bat flip. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. I think if pitchers can celebrate by jumping off of the mound and pumping their fists and screaming in the direction of the batter, the batter should be allowed to reciprocate if he hits a big, It doesn't, honestly, for me, it doesn't even have to be a big moment, right? There's always going to be the Jose Bautista type bat flips in those clutch scenarios. But if you hit a really good pitch in the top of the second inning, flip the bat. I don't care. It's hard to hit a baseball. If you're able to hit a home run in the major leagues, you should be allowed to flip your bat. That's a big accomplishment. There's not a lot of people that have done that.
Yeah, for people who think it's like showboating or stuff, I mean, you should look at celebrations for touchdowns in the NFL, right? I mean, anyone should be allowed to celebrate a good moment. So the argument's stupid. We've had the argument before. Well, not us personally, but I guess Tim Anderson, Ryan, right, was the first one to really start, bat flipping to where it would become a thing. I don't really know, but it's, you see kids doing it now too, right? The little kids on my street start bat flipping now every time they hit something. So it's nice to see it kind of trickle down.
Yeah, people are saying that the guys are setting a bad example for the kids, that they should just act like they've been there before and the kids won't do it. These are the same people that have always said, baseball's a game, you're meant to be having fun, this or that. Well, this is how you can have some fun. If the kids think that that's fun, if they think that it's a cool thing to do, if they do something good in a game, let's just let them do it. It's a game. At the end of the day, baseball is just a game. You're supposed to have, I know it's a job for a lot of these guys, but you're still supposed to have fun. They're not supposed to be just uptight all the time. They're supposed to be a fun aspect.
Those same people are the same ones that are taking the fun out of the sport, Ryan. And that's why people gravitate towards other sports, because you score a goal in soccer, you see people doing flips, right, cartwheels, running around, sliding. Same thing in pretty much any other sport, right? Guy dunks on somebody, he stands over him, flexes his muscles. Baseball's the only one when you celebrate, you're supposed to act like a robot, right? And that leads you into the robot umpires thing nicely, but those are just the same people that want them to just be robots are the same people that are taking the fun out of the sport.
So the second one, robot umpires. I'll start. I think I'm pro robot umpire, but only to an I don't know. It's tough because I kind of like baseball where every umpire has their own strike zone. I think that's kind of a neat aspect of the game. But some of the pitches these guys miss are egregious. So you have to address that somehow.
Yeah, so I know in other sports, the way officiating is kind of not graded, but there's people who review the reviewers, right? Review the referees, the officials, whoever. And there's kind of this, not checks and balances, but a way for them to improve. I don't know if it's like that in baseball. There could be. But, I don't really think robot umpires and strike zones are the way to go. I think the human element of sports is what makes it so gravitating for everybody, right? I mean, you have either, VAR in soccer, instant replay in Secaucus in basketball, the replay center in New York for football. That's fine. And if you want to make balls and strikes reviewable, I think you're going to slow the game down tremendously. But if you want to do that way, that could be an avenue you explore. But I like the human element of sports. I just think there's ways. And listen, Major League Baseball could already do it. I don't work for the league, but I've heard from other people that there's ways to kind of keep it moving and like help umpires or referees see calls that they missed, work on it, stuff like that. So I don't know. I don't really think that robot umpires are the way to go, because what happens if the machine gets it wrong, Ryan?
Yeah, I think for me, it comes down to, like, in the moment, fans are obviously pissed if an umpire really botches a ball and strike call that hurts the team. But I think the thing with baseball, it's 162 games. I think over the season it kind of evens out a little bit. At least in theory, it should.
Well, there's some guys it doesn't even out with, Ryan, and we can name a list of a certain number of umpires where it doesn't even out with.
Well, not so much
for a decade, but
not so much the umpire themselves, but just your team might get screwed one day, but the next day you might benefit from it. Was kind of what I was going for. So I think it would be nice to get the balls and strikes correct all the time. But you brought up the human element to having an actual person behind the plate determining what's a ball and what's a strike. I think that's interesting, and I really don't think I would want that to go away. So I'm going to I said I'm pro getting the balls and strikes correct, but I think ultimately I'm probably a con on robot umps.
I mean, the only technology that you could get to do that is like what they have in tennis, to where they determine when a ball is in that. Ryan, I know you're a big tennis guy, so you could probably speak to this more, but that's the only technology I could see. And part of baseball is getting that call that you like haven't gotten in the past, or like this certain element of that. Like, once you start putting too much technology into sports, it kind of loses the fun of it. That's always my opinion. Like, too much technology is a bad thing. You want instant replay. I think baseball should expand what they can review, because other sports have a lot more liberty over what you can review, what you can challenge. So I think if you want to get the human element more corrected, that's the way to go, as opposed to getting rid of the umpire entirely.
Yeah, I think if you're going to open up instant replay, which I agree you should do, but for balls and strikes, there has to be, I think, a limit to the, like, maybe I guess it just goes with the amount of challenges you have. I guess that's how it would work. Because I don't think you should be able to challenge every, like, oh, that's obviously a strike, but,
Well, if you want to do that, use the technology, and I don't know if this is possible, but use that tennis technology. Do a quick review. Whatever the machine says is what you go with. There's no 5-minute, 10-minute reviews like baseball has had. Whatever the machine says, you go with. And if you lose the challenge, whatever. Like, if you want to make it quick, you could do that in under 15 seconds. You don't even need to put a headset on. You could just have somebody standing in the dugout with a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and then you move on with it. You could even put it up on the stadium jumbotron and make it entertaining for everybody. That's what they do in tennis, right?
Yeah.
So just do that. So you could challenge it, and that could be done and over with in 15 seconds.
I guess you'd maybe put, I don't know. I was a comm major, not an engineer, but I guess you'd try to put some sensors like around the plate or something, and that's, I don't know. I'm not smart enough to figure that out. Banning the shift, you already know. I'm very con when it comes to banning the shift. I think a lot of people just use that as a blanket way to fix the game. I don't think it's that simple. I talked about it in our group chat. I'll try to find the exact statistic, but I really don't think banning the shift fixes anything. I don't think it accomplishes what people think it would.
I just think you got to get better and learn how to hit against a shift, right? I mean, you're a professional player, and you spend all that time with all these analytics guys, with all these swing people, like people fixing your swing, all these former, legends that are on your coaching staff. Like, just learn to hit against the shift, right? I feel like that's just what you're supposed to do, right? If you're getting double teamed in basketball, they're not going to stop double teaming you. You have to learn how to fight through that.
So, of course, I know you know this. I just want to expand upon it. The way the pitchers are today, it's very difficult to just like hit it the other way. But having said that, I think that's what I'm talking about when it comes to like tweaking baseball. I think eventually they're probably going to move the mound back. I think that's inevitable. When it happens, I don't know, but I think eventually that's what's going to happen. I think then we could probably expect the batters to maybe try to adapt a little bit and try to hit the ball where the fielders aren't. The stat, I forget where I saw this. I don't think it was the New York Times, but it was some reputable place. Washington Post, that's what it was. In 2020, if you turned all the outs caused by the shift into hits, it would be an increase of balls in play of less than 1.5%. Like that's not enough for me. That doesn't really warrant banning strategy. Like the shift has been around forever. Like not to this extent, obviously, but it's been around forever. And I think it would be really stupid to get rid of it just because there's not enough balls being put in play. I think there's other ways to get the ball into the field of play. I don't think banning the shift accomplishes that. So that's why I'm really con about it.
Yeah, let me say, I understand how difficult it is to hit a baseball in the majors. I understand that. So when I say just learn to hit it the other way, it's not some dude, some blogger sitting in his room, screaming at players to get better. It's just like there's ways to go about that differently than just getting rid of it. It adds a strategy to it. And again, like it comes to making adjustments. I know it's hard to adjust on a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, but some of that stuff, listen, as a lefty pull hitter on the wiffle ball field himself, I know that I would hit into the shift every single time. Like I never really grasped how to put it, but I also didn't have, like Joe Girardi or other people, like these baseball legends. I mean, obviously not Joe Girardi, but like people that could help me learn how to hit the other way. I guess that was a bad example, but I'm looking at your Phillies thing right behind you, so that's just the first name that came to my mind. So like a guy like Alex Cora, there's a better example, Ryan. Someone that could kind of help me a little bit in my approach. So I don't know. The shift isn't the problem.
So the next thing, bunting, and by that, not like just like small ball, basically, which I think is kind of interesting. I'm pro because you would think the narrative is that the extra innings rule, all you got to do is lay down a bunt, and then you have a guy on third with one out, and then maybe you could try a squeeze if you want to do that, but if not, you still have a guy 90 feet away that can score easily. But we don't see that. We don't see teams. We rarely see teams. I don't know if I can't tell you if it's happened this year, but we don't see teams try to do that. It seems like it's in theory, it seems like that's the way to go. Just lay down a nice bunt, do a little small ball, get the guy home quickly in extra innings, but we don't see that. And we definitely don't see it in innings 1 to 9 like we used to. But I'm very pro bunting and small ball. I wish, I think for certain teams, it's a valid strategy. If you don't have a lot of power hitters, you got to try to manufacture some runs. I think that's fun. Maybe not for the casual fan, but like for the purist, like seeing that small ball strategy like actually work, it's a lot of fun, in my opinion.
Yeah, so someone who has a kickball strategy of just dropping a little bunt down the third base line, I'm a big fan of bunting. That's something that, as you and I have both played baseball, that's something that you work on all the time as a fielder, coming up on a bunt, playing that, throwing it to wherever, like that's something that you work on. So if that's part of the game like that, if you practice that, that's just field the bunt, right? I mean, it's part of the game. So it's not a cheap play. I know people get upset when you bunt to break up a no-hitter. I'm fine with that too, because you got to manufacture something, right? You're not just gonna let the guy no-hit you, right? I mean, that's the same logic. You're not just gonna. That's the whole thing with certain baseball fans, Ryan. They're like, oh, you want to do it the right way. You don't want to do it the cheap way. If it's part of the game, it's not cheap, right? I mean, if it's part of something that you practice, of fielding bunts, of bunting at the plate, just prevent it from happening, right? Just put a guy up there and say, don't bunt on us, hit it over his head. So that's my view on it. And again, that's part of my kickball strategy, Ryan. So when we play kickball with all of our friends in a couple months, put somebody up the third baseline, because I will try and do that.
And then the final one, I know we're on the same page with this, is pitchers batting. I was vehemently against the designated hitter in the National League for the longest time, until it actually happened, at which point I was like, okay, I can't do the pitchers hitting. anymore. I know it's cool when they like lace a double down the left field line, or in the rare cases they hit a home run. You get the pitchers who rake hashtag trending. It doesn't happen often enough for me to say, okay, these guys deserve to hit 2 or 3 times a game. I'm a big DH guy now. I'm pretty sure it is coming back to the National League in 2022. If not, I'm sure it'll come after that. I can't deal with the pitchers hitting anymore. It was fun while it lasted. I can't do it anymore. It's not worth it. It's not worth the time. It's not worth the hassle.
Yeah, well, imagine how bad it is for me, a fan of an American League team, Ryan, when we got to come to Philadelphia and I got to watch, I had to watch David Price swing a bat, John Lester, Clay Buchholz, like these guys that would just have the bat and will never leave their shoulder, Chris Sale. Now imagine how bad it is for us, right? For Glenn, Zach, with the Yankees. Like, when we got to come to a National League park, it's even worse. At least your pitchers, to some extent, practice it. Ours don't. So it's even worse for when America. And it was bad too when in the World Series. It's kind of just a stupid part of it. Like, I don't know. DH is a great thing. And it always has been. It adds another skill position player to your roster that you can really invest in. Well, if you have one of the better ones, we did for a while. So yeah, it's not necessary. And it's not necessary to put your big investments like Jacob deGrom, right? A big investment on the mound to put him in danger at the plate. So it doesn't make sense.
So that was fun. I thought that was a neat thing to do. Something else that's been fun, Matt, is the NHL playoffs that have started. We talked about last week. If you have some free time, watch the NHL playoffs. You're not going to be disappointed. And they have not been disappointing yet at all. None of the series. There have been 6 out of the 8 series have started. We're still waiting on the Canucks and the Flames to finish their 3-game set before the North Division can start their playoffs. But we're not hockey experts, but we do enjoy watching the sport, so we'll talk about it a little bit here. The Islanders beat the Penguins as the 4 seed over the 1 seed. That's great. So we'll get to the Bruins and the Capitals. Matt, your Bruins have knotted up the series 1-1, an overtime victory via Brad Marchand, the fastest overtime goal. The record was initially by Bobby Orr. Marchand broke that last night, and they knotted the series up 1-1. The Bruins as a whole have not looked very good throughout the first 2 games, but they've escaped with a 1-1 series tie as the series now goes back to Boston. So as a Bruins fan, we'll start with this first. There's another point that we have to make, but how are you feeling right now through 2 games?
Well, they played terribly. I thought they should have won both games. To be honest, they had their chances to win game 1. If they played just slightly better, they would have been up 2-0. These 2 teams always play it close. There's a stat that NBC had last night that 6 of the last 11 games have been overtime games in the playoffs between these 2 teams. And all 11, I think, were 1-goal games. Don't underestimate the Bruins at home in the playoffs. They win there all the time. It's just, and now that I said that, they'll drop a game or 2, but I think they'll be fine. They were playing really good hockey coming into the playoffs, so I think they'll be all right. I still, and I know this format is unique to this year, Ryan, with the way they're doing the matchups. But I miss the days when it was just 1 through 8. And I get, again, cut out this year, obviously, because they did it because of COVID travel and stuff. But I miss the days when it was 1 through 8 and you could get the different teams in the playoffs. That could be a topic for another day. But, seeing a team like we did this year, I don't know, 8 times, something like that, Ryan. It feels like more. It's going to be 16 by the end of the series. I don't know. It'll be good to beat Chara, though. But they should have won both games.
They should have. Yeah, they blew game 1, and a lot of people said the reason they not only blew game 1 but struggled in game 2 was Tuukka Rask. Now he has always gotten a lot of unnecessary heat, in my opinion. I think that whenever the Bruins are bad in the postseason, it always just resorts to there's Tuukka again. every team has one of those guys. It's not just exclusive to Boston. Like whenever the Flyers struggle, it's always, why is Giroux the captain? He really shouldn't be. They should really try to find a way to get rid of him. Like every team has a guy like that just takes all the unnecessary heat. But I think it just becomes more amplified in the playoffs. I really think Tuukka gets. I say unnecessary, and I truly mean that. I I think that there's a lot of other issues. I'll say just this year for right now. There's other clear issues with the way the team is constructed. It's hard for me to say that Tuukka's at fault for the loss in game 1 or the position they were in for much of game 2. It's just I can't put the blame on him this year. And like goalies are obviously going to make mistakes. Like he's made mistakes in the past, but I still think he gets too much unnecessary heat for the performances that he's put up.
Yeah, so I think this team can be a Stanley Cup caliber team. I also think that there's some lapses they have, center ice and on the defensive side that cause Tuukka to be put in these situations. Not having Chara doesn't help. Not having Torrey Krug doesn't help. There's times when, the perfection line or really any of our top guys just go cold. This happens all the time in the playoffs to where, some of our best players just don't score goals. I will say, though, Ryan, that some of the criticism is very warranted. You look at some of the past, I know you're saying just this year. If you look at some of his past playoff series, playoff games, there's been some goals that were really, really questionable. The thing is always if you get him moving, that's a good thing. That's what Washington has done in 2 games. I don't know why we haven't really addressed that yet. For whatever reason, he can't shift from one side to the other. I thought they almost blew it last night, Ryan, to be honest with you. If that goal didn't come from, I think it was Taylor Hall, there was a couple guys in front of the net. If they didn't score that goal with 3 minutes left, Tuukka would have been under a lot more fire. But again, some guys on defense really caused that third goal for Washington last night. But I thought Tuukka should have at least gotten something on that a little bit. I don't know if you saw it. It's not like his vision was really affected, but I think some of it is warranted. It really, it was unfair last year when people criticized him for leaving the bubble, right? He was very vocal about the bubble not feeling like playoff atmosphere, and then he left 2 days later because he wanted to be with his family at the apex of the pandemic, right? That was when we really didn't know anything about this. There's not even anything remotely close to a vaccine. And people in Boston still criticized him. I don't agree with that. I take last year completely out of the, realm for criticizing him. I think there's some things you can critique him on in the past. Again, excluding last year. But he will always be the fall guy. He will always be the fall guy. Tim Thomas was the fall guy for a little bit too during the 2011 run because he would come, 10 feet outside of the net just to get a puck. So I think it's more of a positional thing than anything else.
Yeah, you obviously have a different perspective because, they're your team. I agree. Last year, I can't put anything on him. He was right about the atmosphere. Obviously, at the time, that was the only way to do it was in a bubble with nobody else there. But it's just watching on TV now, it's so much different. Just with the fans, with all the excitement in the arena. Some of these arenas are bringing in more and more fans, and they probably will continue to increase if they get further and further into the playoffs. It's so much different. Like, I mean this in the best way possible, but like this is playoff hockey. Like last year, there was some cool action and stuff, but it wasn't the same. So it's been cool this year to kind of see all the excitement, all the allure that playoff hockey brings with it back into the arenas this year.
Yeah, and it's nice to see. But again, with that will come more criticism for a guy in Tuukka. Yeah. To bring it back to that, I mean, it's just going to happen. It's crazy to think, Ryan, that his 8-year contract is coming to a close. I don't think he's going to be a Bruin next year, and I'm okay with that because we have a couple goalies that I think will be suitable replacements, and I think the conversation is warranted to some extent. Maybe not this year, but I think going into next year, having a guy like Swayman on the roster, they have a couple other guys in the pipeline, maybe go out and get somebody like. the conversation can be had, just not now.
So that was the Mass Mutual East. We got through really thorough discussions of both of those playoff series. So we'll go down now a step onto the bracket. Carolina was the 1 seed in the Central. They just barely edged out the Florida Panthers. We'll get to that series in a second, but we'll talk about Carolina quickly. They were a fun team to watch. They've been a fun team to watch for a while. Goaltending has kind of always been an issue for them, but they played really well this year. They dismantled Nashville 5-2 in the first game. I'm not really impressed with Nashville. I don't think they're kind of one of the lower seeded teams that can make a run. I think that they obviously played well when they needed to. They played well down the stretch and they got in over Dallas. But I like Carolina as a team. Like, they're obviously going to have a tough matchup out of whoever comes out of the series in that Central Division, but Carolina's fun. Like, they really epitomize what playoff hockey should be, in my opinion.
Is that just because they had a full arena last night? Is that why you're saying playoff hockey?
Not just that. It's just the way they play, like the way they're just like crashing. They're just playing like with their heads on fire. They were doing it in the regular season too, but I think it just gets amplified a little more because the games mean more now. It's just they are a fun team to watch. Like, because the Flyers aren't in it, the Hurricanes are one of the teams that I'm rooting for this year.
Well, a lot of people forget that 2 years ago they were playing in the Eastern Conference Finals. I think they're the happiest out of anyone that they don't have to play the Bruins in the playoffs in the first round or in any round, really. I don't know. Does the Central play the Mass Mutual East, Ryan, or whatever? Who plays each other in the semifinals?
I think it's whoever comes out of the other divisional matchup. So it stays within your division for 2 rounds.
No, I know that. I'm saying after that.
If they get to the conference finals, they would play whoever comes out of the East.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. So they're probably the happiest on earth they don't have to play the Bruins because they've lost kind of convincingly in the past 2 years to them. But people forget that they were 4 wins away from the Stanley Cup Finals. So this is a team that has talent, has a full arena behind them, which I think will amp up any team as the world starts to open up. That will be an advantage to whoever gets that right away. So, yeah, they're a good team.
I don't think the series is going to be very close. I wouldn't be surprised if Nashville got swept. But the more intriguing series is the Florida-Tampa Bay series, the series that we've been waiting for forever. The 2 Florida teams finally matching up in the playoffs. Florida was the 2 seed, Tampa Bay the 3 seed out of the 4 Central Division teams. Game 1, I think, was the best game out of any Stanley Cup playoff game so far. It was 5-4. It was back and forth. I hope this goes 7 games. I really do. Like, I know in terms of these teams advancing, 7 games wouldn't be great, but this is the series that I was most excited for going into the playoffs, and it lived up to the hype in Game 1. That's why I'm saying, like, if you can watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, like, that game is why you want to watch the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, so I'm bummed out. I basically have to miss the next 2 games of this series because you're right. I caught bits and pieces of the game. I guess it was, Sunday, right? It was electric. And it's kind of weird to see the Panthers being good because this has been a team that really has not been good. They were in the playoffs a couple times, I think when we were in college or in high school, but they weren't, like, in the playoffs, right? They were good, but they weren't good, if you know what I mean. They got a couple former Bruins, so I will always shout them out. Frank Vatrano. I think Riley Smith might still be there. I don't know. In any case, they got your guy Sergei Bobrovsky, Ryan, former Flyer. People kind of question why he went to Florida, right? Didn't we have this discussion on the show at all, or not really? In any case, he's there, and he's playing for a good team. I hope they win. I'm tired of the Lightning. I'm very happy I don't have to see them in the playoffs. We talked about how Carolina doesn't want to see Boston. I'm very happy I don't have to see this team. I hate them. They're annoying. They're very good. I hate them because they're good, Ryan. So that's the best compliment that I could possibly give a team. I hope Florida wins, though. I want to see other teams succeed. And I think hockey, you get that a lot more than in other sports. You see a lot of variety. And I would say maybe baseball too, right? At least in the past 10 years. But we're seeing these new teams in hockey, especially with the format this year, benefit. So I hope the Panthers win.
Yeah, the right side of the bracket is kind of interesting because there's a really good chance that we'll get two of the Islanders, the Hurricanes, and the Panthers in that side of the conference. Yeah, in that side of the conference finals, basically, I guess you could say. It's not really the conference, but like that's what we've been, as you said, that's always, especially with the NHL playoffs, it's really fun to see teams that just come out of nowhere. Not that these teams came out of nowhere, they had a good regular season, but teams that we haven't seen a lot in the past. So it'd be kind of cool to see those kinds of teams make a run at the Cup. And, I mean, ratings-wise, they might not be NHL's first choice, but there's some compelling storylines there, I think. I think the hockey fans could get behind any of those teams if they made it that far.
Well, I don't think ratings are going to be at the top of the conversation this year just because they're switching TV packages. So I will say we didn't talk about the NBC score bug.
That's what I meant to bring that up.
I'm a fan of it. I will say I'm a fan.
No.
I like it. Listen, they're going out. You might as well just throw something on there and see if it works.
Someone replied to Big Cat from Barstool and said it looks like a PS2 graphic, and it does. It looks like if you popped NHL 06 into your PlayStation 2. I get that this is the final time they're doing it, but you couldn't put a little more effort into it, your final go around. It looks, I don't know, it looks.
Why
stupid.
spend the money? Why spend the money, right?
What do you mean? Why spend the money? You're
They're
trying
not
to
going
put
to have
this
it for a decade. Ryan, I'm going to be in my 30s and be like an adult the next time that NBC might be able to get hockey again. So why would they that's how long it's going to be, at least. That's if they don't renew the other, 8 networks that they have for next year. I can't even keep up. TNT, HBO Max, ESPN. Regardless, I'm a fan of it. Might as well change something up. I made the joke. It's great that they did it in their last year. I hate that NBC teased me with a Doc Emmerich monologue to open up the playoffs, Ryan. I don't know if they played that before every game, but they played it before the Bruins game on Friday night. Then I thought Doc was going to be there. Much to my chagrin, he was not. So they were teasing me with that. I'm really disappointed. We need to fly him in. I will give him $1 to come fly and do the Stanley Cup Finals.
I really like the one. I wish the one that they had in 2008. I can't. Maybe I'll put a picture on the screen if you're watching the video version. That one was good. Here, I'll put a link into the. This is great podcast, by the way. We're gonna take.
I don't want to
to
mess it up. I don't want to mess it up like I did before by clicking out of the channel.
There you go.
Here, all right.
So that's that one. This is great. I'm glad that we're doing this. This is great podcasting.
Well,
here. This is kind of the essence of podcasting, that we can do something like this. This was my favorite version of it. I thought that this was nice and clean. I thought that it worked. I thought that the logos with the team names, I thought that it all looked cool. Even the one that came after.
Oh, I like this one. Okay.
The one that came after it too wasn't too bad. I was not a fan of the one that they've had for the past, it seems like 4 or 5 years. I don't know if it's just because the Flyers used the same one, so it didn't feel any different. This felt different. That's a big thing for me. A score bug, if it's a playoff game, it should be different than what you see normally. It should show listen, this is a different type of game. This is more important. But the one they have this year, you could tell they didn't put any effort into it.
All right, so I will agree with you. NBC did that same score bug, I believe, for the NFL as well. So it gives me big Sunday Night Football vibes when I saw that, or a similar iteration of it. I will agree with you. I like that one more. I'm just saying I like it because it's something different, and I like when the only thing that confuses me is where they have the time, especially on a power play. There's some moving aspects of this year's that kind of threw me off, but I don't know. Let them do whatever they want, Ryan. They're not going to have it again for a while.
Listen, whatever. I'm not going to lie. If I was going to be out in 2 months, I would do the same thing. But as someone that's, that doesn't work for them, I think it looks stupid.
But think of it like this. They need to start churning out graphics for the Olympics, right? So why put so much effort into this score bug knowing that you have the Olympics coming up, which is your big money getter, on top of the fact that you're not going to have hockey for like a decade, right? I mean, and they're going to have the Olympics.
I forgot about the Olympics.
Yeah. They're going to have Olympics, Ryan, twice within, I think, a year, right? I mean, aren't the Winter Olympics, I don't know what time, if it's...
They are next year, huh? Yeah, I guess they are. The World Cup's next... Well, the World Cup's supposed to be next year. We'll see.
Is that the one? Yeah.
That one. So...
That's supposed to be in December, I think, too, because it's too hot to play there during the summer. So that'll really
great
give
location
FIFA,
choice.
Yeah, that'll give FIFA some great scheduling conflicts with their club teams, but we could talk about that later.
Oh, yes, we can. That'll be an enthralling discussion that I am looking forward to about that. On the other side of the bracket, we can't talk about the North Division because they haven't started yet. The Avalanche and the Blues, I kind of feel like are the same as the Hurricanes and the Predators. The Blues, I don't think really have what it takes, especially going up against the best team on paper going into the playoffs in the Colorado Avalanche. They're my Stanley Cup pick. They're my team that I think is going to win it all. I think they just have too much talent at all levels. Their forward core, their defense, their goalies. I'd be shocked if they lost before the Stanley Cup Finals. Colorado and Vegas, if Vegas gets there, would be fun, but I would still probably take Colorado. They are really good. They're definitely the best team.
It would be an epic failure if this team did not at least make the Stanley Cup final. And it was a similar team last year, Ryan, and we were kind of confused when they lost to Dallas, right? I mean, this is... I'm trying to recall. I think that was a Game 7. We don't really take what happened in the bubble, too much to heart, but Colorado playoff hockey, Ryan, they were good, I guess, when we were kids, right? And they might have had one or two other good years sprinkled in, but that arena gets loud. Their goal song and horn, Ryan, I think is top 5 in the league. I don't know if you agree. I don't know if we should do an episode power ranking goal songs, but theirs is definitely up there. It would be an epic disappointment if this team was not playing in, I guess, July, late June, whenever the Stanley Cup final is this year.
So they will play. I agree. This has to be the year for the Avalanche. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, the Wild won Game 1 against the Golden Knights, which I was very surprised about. Cam Talbot stood on. I mean, both of the goalies stood on their heads. Talbot put together a shutout. Obviously, it went all the way into overtime, and then Joel Eriksson Ek scored the only goal of the game. Marc-Andre Fleury had a really good game, but of course he had to get the loss. So we'll see if the offense comes out a little more in game number 2, which is tonight. But this is another, I think the Wild have some good players. Obviously, they have Kirill Kaprizov, who's been a sensational story this year. He's been really fun to watch. I still don't think the Wild are going to beat the Golden Knights. That's something else I'd be shocked about. I really wish we could have seen a finals, left side bracket finals with Colorado and Vegas. Unfortunately, that's going to be a semifinal, unfortunately. But I don't think the Golden Knights are going to lose this series. I have them taking it in 6 games. I think that they bounce back, and I think ultimately they come out on top against Minnesota. But Minnesota's a good team, though. I want to make that clear. Don't write them off.
Yeah, but if you're going off of atmospheres, too, Vegas and Colorado would be an electric 7-game series.
Yes.
Just in terms of ratings, in terms of atmosphere, electric. It's a shame too. You mentioned it. One of these teams is not going to be among the Final 4. They're going to have to play Toronto or whoever comes out of the. What's the Canada? Is Scotiabank? Is that the Canada sponsor? The Scotiabank North region. It's a shame we're going to be robbed of a conference finals between these two teams, though. No disrespect to the Scotiabank North. They got some teams, but again, this is where this format is kind of unique and when we kind of lose out on some matchups.
We have the Islanders and the Penguins tonight at 7:30. The Lightning and the Panthers play at 8. The Wild and the Golden Knights play at 10. If you really want to get your hockey fix, the Flames of the Canucks will be playing by the time this episode comes out at 4 p.m. Eastern. So if you really want to get a nice pregame going, that's a good game for it. The North Division can finally start their playoffs tomorrow on Wednesday. That's when the Oilers and Connor McDavid play against the Jets. And then the Maple Leafs and the Canucks play on Thursday. Then every series will finally be underway, like almost a week later. So that was NHL hockey. We'll keep up with this next week. Some of these series will probably be over. We'll see if all of them are. But let's move on now to we forgot to talk about this when we were talking about baseball. Albert Pujols has moved across the town. I think I don't know the California geography very well, but he's no longer an Angel. He's now a Dodger. I said in the group chat, this doesn't make any sense. Still don't think it makes any sense. For him, it makes sense because he doesn't have to move. But I think this is just, I don't know what he does for them. I really don't know what Pujols is supposed to do for this team. Especially with no DH. Like, if there was a DH, I'd kind of get it. But they don't even have the benefit of a DH.
You could say the same thing, though, Ryan, about David Price. You could say the same. They're just loading up on.
At least, like, the Pujols thing, this doesn't make, like, what does Pujols do? Like, he just shows up at this point.
I'll tell you what he does, Ryan. He sells jerseys. He gets people in the seats. When LA opens up more, people will. I'm telling you, people want to see this guy before he retires.
They have enough people already to fill the seats.
They're doing the Brooklyn Nets formula of just signing every veteran to build up their depth. And listen, we're going to sit here and say this now, and then when October comes around, Ryan, and Albert Pujols hits a go-ahead 3-run home run in like the NLCS, then we're going to be like, well, that's why they got him. You know, I mean this in the most respectful way possible. He sucks. Like, the St. Louis thing, I kind of got, right? I wouldn't have agreed with it because I think the guy's obviously washed. But it's like, okay, he played his first half of his career there. He put up some of the best years in baseball history. He wants to come back, be a mentor for the young guys, and go out as a Cardinal. Okay, I get that. The Dodgers, like, really, Well, you also have to remember that a lot of their teams hurt right now, or is dealing with some form of injuries.
So what about when they get back? You're just going to keep this guy on the roster to do nothing?
Yeah, I'm telling you, Ryan, he sells jerseys. That is why they could slap it in the team store, in the clubhouse, be like, here you go, here's a nice Albert Pujols 55 jersey. People are going to buy him. That's why he's there. And
he should have retired. He should have retired already. I think that's what upsets me. Like I saw somebody talk about it. The Jeter thing, they were talking about Pujols' farewell tour. He's not good anymore. Like, he's not going to contribute anything positive to this team. You don't even need a veteran presence there because they have enough of those already that have been in big spots and can cheat the kids. You don't even need that. Like, no part of this move made sense. You can talk about the jersey sales, the fans, this or that. I really don't think that's that much. I don't think he's going to, like, help that much in that aspect.
It's, first of all, Nick Halper's heart was probably broken when Pujols did not come back. Nick's a busy boy these days, but I'm sure that his heart was broken when Pujols didn't come home to St. Louis. So, Nick, I'm sorry, but listen, man, there's other teams doing this in other sports, right? I mean, if you're going to say the same thing, you got to say the same thing about like Blake Griffin or like there's every sport has a team like this.
You can go back to the text. I said Blake Griffin doesn't have anything left. I don't know why the Nets are doing this, but
I disagree with that.
But no, well, hold on. But at least Blake could still play the game at a respectable level.
Well,
like Pujols can't do that.
Ryan, I don't know if you saw, but he had an RBI last night.
Good for him.
Game. I don't know. He's already contributing to the team. I don't know if you've seen that or not, but
the guy hasn't had an OPS above 800 since 2012. For almost a decade, this guy just took money from the Angels organization to do absolutely nothing, and the Dodgers decided, let's bring him in. Maybe he'll do good here. No way. No shot.
What negative impact does that have on the Dodgers? Absolutely nothing. Name me a guy AAA. Tell me who in AAA they could call up that's going to take that spot. Pull it up. minor league baseball expert Ryan Waldish here. Give me
I'm
a
just
name.
saying, a 41-year-old bench bat with a 600-ish OPS, that's valuable? No, it's not.
It's not. They're just doing it because they can. That's what it is. They have all the luxury and the riches. Like, why not? Who cares?
It's not even like he's ring chasing. Like, he doesn't need a ring. He has 2 of them.
Well, he hasn't had a ring in a long time because he's played for a team that hasn't made the playoffs in
Call up
a long time. Give me a guy.
Listen. This is what I'm talking about. So when Seager and McKinstry and Bellinger and Pollock come back, what are you gonna do? Just cut them? You don't have enough room on your bench for all these guys.
He's just going to be hanging out and vibing and getting a ring, man. That's what he's going to be doing. And they just picked
up Yoshi Tsutsugo from the race.
Yeah, that's true. Well, maybe they'll flip him at the deadline or they'll trade somebody for some prospects. I don't know. Like, who can, like they're trying to, I guess, find the spark. I don't know, because they're like 3rd in the division right now. They're not running through the league like we all thought they would, but maybe it's just, I don't know. I can't explain it, but they did it. I think it's going to bring in some revenue regardless. So you got to recoup the losses over the past year and a half money-wise, Ryan, any way you can. And Pujols, and I see you making a face, but like, he'll sell jerseys. He'll get some TV ratings for you.
They won the World Series. I don't think they need that much more money.
Well, I mean, we in our society, more money is better than less money.
Call up Matt Davidson. Call up Carlos Asawahe. Call up Steven Souza Jr. Call up Jaron Kendall for all I care. Call up Kybert Ruiz, Travis Blankenhorn. You don't need Albert Pujols.
A lot of those guys could probably play on a major league roster across the league.
Exactly.
I'm just saying. Listen,
Pujols can't.
They could do whatever, man. They might as well just go get a bunch of other guys that are recently retired or just need a ring. Just come aboard, man. Come aboard the World Series train. I see you feel very strongly about this, Ryan, and I respect your opinion.
I have not felt this strong about anything in a very long time. Probably in at least a week. And it's just, that's it. I made my point. I don't think he should be in the majors anymore. I think he should have just gracefully, I know it, listen, I get it. These guys are built differently than me. They don't want to step away. I get it. I think just for his legacy alone, he should have stepped away already.
But Ryan,
there's nothing he can bring to this team.
We talked about pitchers hitting, Ryan. Now, if you need a pinch hitter in a pinch, pun intended, you bring in a guy like him, that's the best pinch hitter you're ever going to get.
To do what? Strike out on 4 pitches?
Well, at least you could say that you brought in Albert Pujols. Like, you tried everything you can. Like, I get the guy hasn't done anything, but at least you could sleep well at night if you're Dave Roberts, knowing that you brought in one of the best players in baseball history to try and hit for one of your pitchers.
We're going to move on to, I guess, to end the episode. Well, actually, I do want to make a point. Motorsports, big weekend, big couple weeks, actually. This weekend, we have NASCAR going to Circuit of the Americas for the first time ever in Austin, Texas. So that'll be a lot of fun to watch, I think. You have Monaco. Formula One is going to Monaco, which is kind of their premier race. It's not the best racing product. It's more of just like a historical thing. But that's this Sunday as well. That's at 9 a.m. Indianapolis 500 is not until next week, but that's coming up. You got the Coca-Cola 600 coming up. I think that's Memorial Day weekend too. So there's some cool motorsports-based things coming up. So this is a really nice time for that. Alex Bowman won at Dover yesterday, so he's won his second race for NASCAR. IndyCar, they've had multiple first-time winners this year, which has been kind of cool. I haven't really been watching IndyCar, admittedly, but I've been keeping up with the news, and it seems like it's been a good product this year. So that's your Motorsports Minute.
Well, I actually have a motorsport point to make, Ryan. Discussion. First of all, first time I've ever heard of Circuit of the Americas. When you said that, I had no idea what that is. Second, Is it Talladega? Which race course is letting fans drive a lap if they get vaccinated? Is that a thing?
That was Talladega, and it was
Okay.
funny because it was trending on, not trending, but if you're a NASCAR fan, you probably saw it on Twitter. Some of the people that went to drive around the track didn't really comprehend what banking does, so they didn't accelerate when they went like into the turn. And so I saw people saying like the people that didn't know what to do, their car just like slid down into the grass, which I would have loved to see. But that's a pretty neat experience. I mean, you know, my 2000 Jeep Grand Cherokee could probably get to a decent mileage per hour to get around that banking. I mean, that thing can handle a lot. But yeah, that was. I wish there was something like that near. I mean, I'm obviously already vaccinated, but that would have been cool to do if I was down there. That would encourage me to go get a vaccine shot.
I think they should do that at every race course. I think that is a genius idea.
Well,
and
they
if
were
you,
doing
if
it
you want
at,
to expand that to other sports, take BP on the field of a game or on the field of like your major league team when they're on the road. I think that's genius. So I think NASCAR is getting out ahead of the game of trying to entice people to get a vaccine. Drive a lap around the NASCAR racetrack, probably really cool. And I saw those people wiping out, like you said. So NASCAR, ingenious idea right there.
listen, some people, I get it. We're not going to get into like this type of discussion, but some people need they need an incentive to get a vaccine shot. So I agree.
It's a pretty cool incentive.
You brought up a cool idea. If you go to Citizens Bank Park, get 3 swings from a pitcher somewhere
Well,
on
most
the
of
field.
these places are vaccination sites. That's what I mean. You could just go get your needle, then come down, hit some BP, go kick a field goal or kick a goal in like a soccer stadium or like take a free throw in like a basketball court. Like I don't know about hockey because I don't really know. You're going to have to put skates on somebody and that's
You could put down like
nightmare.
that kind of like that carpet stuff they use, like when they present the Stanley Cup, and then they could walk out, take a shot on the net.
Listen, I think it's a really cool idea, even as someone who doesn't watch NASCAR at all, to be able to drive around the course once. Track.
Well,
drive around
they
the track
make you
once.
pay for that. They make you pay for that normally. There's experiences where you pay to do that, but this you can do it for free as long as you just get a shot. Like it's a great deal.
Cool. And listen, and we're not getting into it. I understand the hesitancy among a lot of people, and I think they should open it up to anybody who's vaccinated, regardless of if you went there. Because I think these are cool experiences. Be like, listen, I went to a mall to get mine, not a baseball park, but I would love to try and see how far I could, swing a baseball bat, which, as you've seen, is not very far. But so I wanted to shout out NASCAR for that cool idea. And Ryan, I think it's time that we pick the winner of the PGA Championship, like we did with the Masters. Pull up the list.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do that. The PGA. This is as we said at the beginning. This is a pretty substantial weekend for sports. There's a lot of different things that you can watch this weekend, and at least near here, the weather's going to be nice, which I think is just the best. Sports are on TV all day. You look outside, the sun's shining, nice light breeze. Everything just feels better. So,
all right. So, Adam Scott. Who else? Let's just Scotty Scheffler, Bubba Watson, Henrik Stenson are all guys that could win.
So Rory is the current odds-on favorite at plus 1150. So yeah, Rory might. We just talked about him being back, so he could win. Justin Thomas, you never want to count him out. Jordan Spieth, we said a couple months ago, is back. Bryson DeChambeau, ever the polarizing figure. Xander Schauffele, he's always a good one to throw some money on. DJ, you can't forget about DJ. Victor Hovland, another good guy. Morikawa, he was, obviously he got a lot of acclaim last year. Hideki Matsuyama, Masters winner. Maybe he goes back-to-back.
Tony
Patrick
Finau,
Reed, as you said.
Corey
Tony
Connors.
Yeah.
Billy Horschel, Daniel Berger, Steve Stricker.
Zalatoris. We got to put him in there. Will Zalatoris. Let's see who else here. Jason Day. There you go. Sergio Garcia, the veterans. Carl Schwartzel. Lee Westwood. Siwoo Kim. It's going down further. Zach Johnson.
Did you say Webb Simpson? Did you say Webb Simpson yet?
I did not say
He
him.
could be a guy that can make a run. Yep.
Zach Johnson. Sebastian Munoz. That maybe him. Kevin Kisner. He's had some good performances in the past. Uncle Phil. Got to put Uncle Phil in there. looking here, some more names. But John Daly is going to be there, so maybe John Daly. Y.E. Yang, he's always a good one. Maybe make a late push.
Mark Leishman, did you say him yet?
Joe Summerhays is plus 250,000, so maybe he makes a surprise run. Who knows? Patrick Harrington, that's a name I've seen before. So just any of those guys, just look for them to be in contention in the PGA Championship this weekend. I think that I'm pretty confident that one of those guys will win. We didn't name a whole lot of them, but I'm pretty sure that at least one of those guys is going to win. So bet on one of those guys if you're a betting person. If not, just look for that way. Just make sure if you watch it, you give us credit when one of those guys is at the top of the leaderboard. So that way we can say that we called it. Yeah, there's a lot of great names this weekend. I'm looking right now. It should be a good tournament, I think.
Did you say John Rahm yet? Did you put him
I
on the
might have
list?
said John, but just in case I didn't, let's just throw him in there too. He's always good for contention.
Just anybody, anyone that you see has a good chance of winning. It's really going out on a limb here, picking winners. So
well, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say anybody. Like I'll tell you right now, I'm not a big fan of Mackenzie Hughes. Like I don't think that Mackenzie Hughes is gonna be in contention this weekend.
why not? He was one of the guys that I was going to throw in there. What's wrong with him?
Oh, Matt Kuchar. That's another. Kevin Na. So just Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler's back. He's back. Max Homa. So yeah, just those guys. Couple names just to watch out for. We wanted to give our picks as a golf podcast. So that's that. We got everything in that we needed to get in. NBA play-in tournament. Matt, I know you're excited. That starts.
Yeah.
So
As the Celtics are somewhere behind me right there on the banner. There it is. Yeah, it'll be the first expanded version of it. Be interesting to see how that plays out. They did the one game last year. Well, it could have been two, a max of 2 games. This will be a little bit more, so we'll see how it works out. Adds an extra week to the playoffs. Major League Baseball added a whole extra week to their playoffs last year, and it was very well received. So we'll see. Something new.
My team was the 1 seed. I don't have to worry about any of this amateur stuff. We'll have a lot to talk about next week.
WNBA, back Ryan.
Yes.
I got to throw that in there.
Yes.
Sabrina Ionescu, absolute crazy shot to open up the season. So she's back. We're talking about who's back, Ryan. Sabrina is back.
Candace Parker was back too, by the way. Candace Parker. That's a good one to throw in there.
She has that homecoming in Chicago. A lot of really cool storylines this year. Chicago's really good. The fact that they had Allie Quigley come off the bench shows how deep they are. But listen, Sabrina Ionescu was one of my favorite players to watch in college. She was basically our age, so her college career was like concurrent with ours. So seeing her back, she only played in like 3 games last year. So that's cool. New York should be a little bit better than they were last year, I think. I mean, they will be because they have her on the court.
Aces opened up with a loss, but I'm still confident in them long-term this year. I think that they'll still have a good season. Seattle, good. Again.
Are you just going to start naming teams now?
I'm going to stick with my Aces this year. I was with them last year, so I'm going to stick with my Aces again this year. But Seattle, Seattle's very good. I didn't want to be a fan of Seattle because they were already really good, so I wanted to get someone like a little below them, and so that's why I picked Vegas. But yeah, Seattle, I think they're going to be good again this year. It might be a hot take, but I think they're probably going to be pretty good again. Yeah, WNBA is back.
Yeah, I'm a big Candace Parker fan, so I'll be watching a lot of Chicago. So the thing, we'll end on this. I don't know if you got anything else, but WNBA, there's multiple games on national TV every week now. That broadcast package expanded last year, and they're going to have a lot on CBS Sports Network, ESPN, NBA TV. And if you want to go even further, the WNBA League Pass is like only $16. So you basically could, for $16, when you compare it to everything else, you get a really good deal there. So yeah, we'll be talking about it more during the summer. Lots of cool stuff. Yeah, busy weekend, Ryan, in sports.
I give CBS a lot of credit. They've really tried to invest in women's sports. I mean, they did. You mentioned the WNBA. They've done the same thing with the NWSL. So I really appreciate that they're trying to showcase more women's sports. I mean, we talked about that all the way back in August last year that we wish they were more easily accessible, and now it seems like the networks are at least trying to make it accessible. So that's a positive for 2021. Let's hope that it continues going that way.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, I mean, ESPN's got a doubleheader tonight. You can watch all 3 WNBA games that are on tonight, right? You got one on ESPN3, so it's a free game. You don't need the ESPN Plus subscription, and you get the other 2 on ESPN. You mentioned the NWSL. Like, you see it on a lot. I see all the highlights with the score bug for CBS Sports as well. So, yeah, they're really at the front in terms of putting more on TV, and it's really nice to see. And I think it brings in a lot more people as well. And we see it, and we're going to shout out Forward Progress because they did the same thing I did, trying to figure out how the WNBA is 25 and we're 24. Hurts my brain to try and figure that out, Ryan. To do that mental math there, but yeah, listen, get in on it now. It's going to be really fun to watch their seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, as Matt said, we'll talk about that in the weeks moving forward since the season just started. I want to thank you all for listening to this episode. We had a lot to talk about this week, so it was a little on the longer side compared to what we've done, but we just wanted to make sure we got a lot of stuff in that we wanted to talk about. Next week, I'm sure it'll be about this link too, just because once again, we have a lot to talk about. So be sure to stay tuned for next week. I want to thank you all for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.